Thanks for joining me, Aquarius. It's February 2015. I'm Dadhichi Toth from astrology.com.au with your monthly horoscope. It's hard to believe it's February already. Time flies like an arrow. Fruit flies like a banana, as Groucho Marx once said. But that's beside the point. Let's take a look here at some very important transits for you, namely the new moon that takes place in the sign of Aquarius later in the month, but the full moon on the 4th of February in your zone of relationships, business partnerships, and public relations generally. That full moon, in conjunction with the transiting Jupiter that's been there for some months now, is an extraordinarily good omen and could actually occur as a result of some problems, believe it or not. For example, your partner may have some issues, some challenges, maybe even some poor health at this time. And this, I guess, stimulates your compassion, draws you closer to them. And of course, the net result of that is a better relationship, better communication, etc., etc. We see the idealism associated with love with your most beneficial planet Venus around the 2nd, just prior to that full moon, the conjunction of Venus and Neptune in the 2nd sector. So apart from the, I'd call it the relationship idealism, romantic idealism, this does have a very strong financial connotation, being the 2nd house of your horoscope, which is to do with your income, financial income. Venus, Neptune and Mars, 3 planets there. Mars is not particularly friendly, but it absolutely gives you the dynamic drive and ambition to achieve what you want in that specific area of your life. Mercury is at the right angle to your career sector. Whilst you may be making the money, you may not be able to communicate your ideas all that well to your employers or your co-workers. And I would say you need to wait until the 12th for any important notifications or letters that you yourself have to draft due to the retrogression of Mercury. Mercury goes forward on the 12th, and just prior to that, Venus is in good aspect to your career sector. Sun comes back into a strong position around the 9th. So all of these dates leading up to the 12th are a good omen for you to move forward with your plan. And if you've been, I guess, on the back foot, now's the time where you can take your drive and energy and push it forward to precisely where it is you want to go. The position of the Sun in the 2nd house by transit on the 19th of February happens around the time of that new moon. And this is particularly important because the Aquarian new moon has a lot to do with your personality as such. So if you've had any sort of New Year's resolution, in your case it may be slightly delayed, but rest assured the new moon does bring with it a whole new change in cycle, a fresh new start in a lot of areas of your life, not the least of which is your personality, your style of communication, and who you are generally. You're changing that and eliminating a lot of the dead wood. So that's definitely a positive aspect for you in February. The transit of Mars, which we just mentioned, was in your 2nd house. That will only remain there till the 20th of February. On the 20th, it moves to your 3rd house of communications, thinking, journeys, siblings, and neighbours. And on the 21st, Venus also makes its presence felt there. And those 2 planets come into conjunction in that area on the 22nd. So these are also important dates when there'll be a very, very dramatic and tangible shift from this financial realm to this area of communication, traveling, ideas, so on and so forth. So that makes you busier. It makes you more active, physically mobile. So make sure your diary is well planned so that you can accommodate all these new appointments and do it in a way that's going to be conducive to all concerned. There is a hard aspect on the 24th associated with the Sun and Saturn, one of your rulers. Sun, of course, being in the 2nd sector of finance, and Saturn being in the 11th house of profitability, shows that there are problems there. This may relate more to those of you who own your own independent businesses where profits may be a little bit slowed. You know, the global economy right now hasn't been so good. There's a bit of a dip coming again, and that may mean tightening your belt and lessening the expenses in certain areas that you may have traditionally felt, traditionally overlooked and just took for granted. Now you may be really, really counting your pennies, and that's not a bad thing, because it means you can accumulate more profit as a result of cutting those overheads. The counteraction to that is by the way, that takes place on the 24th, and the sun moving into that transit for 4 or 5 days before will be tangibly felt. This is offset, fortunately, by the Venus and Mars triangular aspect to Saturn on the 25th and 26th. And so it shows a real constructive sort of energy there to achieve consensus. You'll be forceful enough, but persuasive enough with Venus and Mars to convince others. If you're in sales, you can actually make some good headway there and catch a client that's maybe been a little bit tricky over the past few months. So that could also yield you some very good financial rewards. The last aspect I'd like to talk about is the conjunction of the Sun and Neptune in that second house again, that theme of money and earnings being strongly focused. That combination can create some, it's a double-edged sword. It can give great idealism, but at the same time some confusion and a nebulous sort of thing going on there. So you need to be absolutely clear about what you want, clear about how you're going to earn your money, and clear about how you're going to negotiate and transact with people towards the very last part of the month and into March. Do join me again next month for your March synopsis. In the meantime, take a look at my website, astrology.com.au. That's where we have our daily, monthly, yearly readings in much more detail, and our free readings, personalized readings with people like me and the other astrologers and psychics that are available through our network. Take care till next month. Have fun, and thanks for joining me.